He was meant to be the savior of the Spanish crown. King Felipe VI, a tall, composed, and modern monarch, took the throne in 2014 with a clear mission: to restore the dignity of an institution collapsing under the weight of scandal. His entire reign has been a masterclass in image management, built on transparency, duty, and flawless stability. He looks like the perfect king for a new era, a dedicated husband and father, leading a streamlined, respectable royal family into the 21st century. The palace he runs is one of order, protocol, and perfect public appearances. But that's just the story you're supposed to see. Behind the ancient fortified walls of the Zarzuela Palace lies a very different reality. It's a world of intense privacy and deliberate secrecy where every friendship is scrutinized and every habit is guarded. It's a world where the ghosts of past scandals won't die and new ones are threatening to shatter the perfect image he's worked so tirelessly to create. What if the real story of his reign is one he never wants told? What secrets is he keeping behind those palace walls? Who is left in his shrinking inner circle? And what are the private habits he protects from the world? To understand the man who wears the crown, we have to look past the public facade and into the shadows where the true king lives. This is the mystery of King Felipe's private world. To really get how isolated a king can be, you have to look at the world he came from. Felipe's father, King Juan Carlos III, ran a court that was sprawling, informal, and in the end, dangerously open. Friendships were a form of currency, and access was given to a wide circle of aristocrats, politicians, and businessmen. It was a system built on relationships that blurred the lines between personal loyalty and professional interest, a system that would eventually lead to the monarchy's near collapse. When Felipe took the throne, his first quietest revolution was to build a wall, not of stone, but of silence and exclusion. The flashy and sometimes notorious social scene of his father's time was gone. In its place, Felipe brought in a new philosophy. Privacy was everything, and trust was the rarest of commodities. The circle of friends, once a huge and influential court, has been deliberately cut down. This wasn't just personal taste. It was a survival strategy. The scandals that pushed his father to abdicate were born in those very circles. Friends and associates got caught up in financial investigations, their names splashed across headlines, forever linking the crown to corruption. A key example is the businessman Javier López Madrid, once a close friend who was decisively cut out of the royal circle after his own legal issues. For Felipe, the lesson was brutal. Every connection is a potential risk. So, who's still inside this fortress of privacy? Who actually has the king's ear? The answer isn't in the salons of Madrid's elite, but in the disciplined, discreet worlds he was part of before his coronation. He keeps deep and loyal friendships with people from his time in the military. These are men bound by a shared code, people for whom discretion is second nature. It's said the king feels most comfortable with them, often meeting for private lunches where the weight of the crown can be briefly set aside. There, he's not just a monarch. He's a comrade, a peer among equals who share a history far from the politics of the palace. Another key part of his inner world was formed far from Spain, while he was studying at Georgetown University in the United States. These friendships, born in an academic setting, are based on intellectual connection rather than status. Felipe has been known to visit these friends on vacation, looking for a bit of normalcy that's impossible to find in his official life. Back in Spain, his most trusted confidants are a select few, like his childhood friend Álvaro Fuster and his cousin, Pedro López Quesada. These relationships are marked by their long history and family ties, suggesting the king puts his trust in those who knew him long before he wore the crown. This shrinking circle even applies to the definition of the royal family itself. In one of his most radical moves, Felipe reduced the official institutional royal family to a core group of just 4: himself, his wife Queen Letizia, and their 2 daughters, Princess Leonor and Infanta Sofia. Everyone else, including his own sisters, was formally removed from the institution's official duties. The message was loud and clear. The era of an extended, semi-official royal clan, with all its risks and scandals, was finished. The new Spanish monarchy would be a tight, disciplined, professional unit. The public image of King Felipe VI is one of unwavering duty and formal composure. We see him in military dress, in tailored suits, a figure of stoic authority. But behind this rigid facade is a man who actively cultivates moments of normalcy, a set of private habits and routines that reveal a desire to connect with a life beyond the palace walls. These habits aren't eccentricities, but calculated efforts to maintain a personal identity separate from his public role, a distinction his father famously failed to uphold. One of the most telling shifts came shortly after his marriage to Queen Letizia. Felipe gave up hunting, a traditional royal pastime and a passion of his father's that ultimately became a symbol of his disconnect from the Spanish people. The infamous elephant hunting trip in Botswana, at the height of Spain's financial crisis, was a public relations disaster that irreparably damaged Juan Carlos's reputation. Felipe's quiet abandonment of the sport was a powerful, unspoken rejection of that legacy. Instead, he cultivates a love for the outdoors that is more in line with a modern, family-oriented lifestyle. He is known to enjoy simple walks in the countryside and trips with his family to towns near Madrid, attempting to give his daughters a semblance of a normal childhood. He is a devoted sportsman, a habit that speaks to both personal passion and the discipline instilled by his military training. He is particularly fond of skiing, basketball, and cycling. His passion for sports is not just a hobby. It's a commitment to physical fitness, something he takes seriously due to past issues with his back. He even competed in the 1992 Barcelona Olympics as a member of the Spanish sailing team, serving as the nation's flag bearer, a clear indication that his connection to the sporting world is deep and personal. While he now prefers to ski with his family at resorts outside of Spain to avoid a media frenzy, he still makes an annual trip to the Spanish slopes with his trusted circle of friends. The quest for normalcy is a recurring theme, often encouraged by Queen Letizia, who, as a former journalist, has a keen understanding of the world outside royal protocol. She is known to attend large-scale music festivals with her own friends, maintaining an independent social life. Together, they make a conscious effort to break the royal bubble. They have been seen taking their daughters to public cinemas and strolling through the streets of Madrid, small acts of ordinary life that are, for them, extraordinary. Yet, even in his private time, Felipe adheres to a certain code. He is a participant in all-male dinners with friends, gatherings where camaraderie is the main objective. Crucially, at these dinners, the bill is always split evenly among all attendees. This small detail is incredibly revealing. It shows a king who, in his private moments, refuses to be treated as a monarch. He desires to be just one of the group, a friend among friends, sharing the costs and responsibilities like any other citizen. It's a carefully guarded habit that speaks volumes about his character and his desire to remain grounded. However, this pursuit of a private life is a constant battle against the demands of his position. The royal household is intensely protective of the family's privacy. The locations of their vacations are never officially disclosed, and details of where his daughters attended summer camp in the United States have been kept a closely guarded secret. While the palace did allow television cameras inside for a documentary on his 50th birthday, offering a rare glimpse of family lunches and helping his daughters get ready for school, these moments are the exception. They are carefully curated windows into a life that is otherwise shielded from public view. This duality defines Felipe's existence. He is a king who must project authority and tradition, yet a man who seeks the simple pleasures of a private citizen. His hidden habits are not scandalous secrets, but rather the quiet rebellions of a monarch trying to carve out a personal space within an all-consuming public role. He has pioneered a new style of royal life, one that draws a firm line between his professional duties and his private world. A world where he can be a father, a husband, a sportsman, and a friend, away from the unrelenting gaze of the nation he serves. No issue has haunted the Spanish monarchy more than money. For decades, the royal family's finances were hidden behind an opaque veil of tradition and immunity, a system that allowed immense wealth to be gathered under a cloud of suspicion. This was the world King Felipe inherited, a legacy not of treasure, but of toxicity. To understand just how radical his financial reforms are, we first have to look at the scandal that nearly brought down the House of Bourbon. The architect of the crisis was his own father, King Juan Carlos I. Once hailed as the hero of Spain's transition to democracy, his later reign became a study in royal excess and alleged corruption. Rumors of shady financial dealings followed him for years, but they blew up with investigations into multi-million-dollar fortunes in foreign accounts and allegations of illegal commissions. One of the most damaging investigations focused on a high-speed rail contract in Saudi Arabia, with suspicions that the king had received a massive kickback. These financial scandals were made worse by a lifestyle that seemed grotesquely out of touch with the struggles of ordinary Spaniards, most famously the Botswana elephant hunt. But the rot wasn't just with the patriarch. It had spread to his children. The king's youngest daughter, Infanta Cristina, and her husband, Iñaki Urdangarin, were caught up in a massive corruption case known as the Noose Affair. Urdangarin was convicted of embezzling millions of euros in public funds through a non-profit foundation he ran. Cristina herself was charged, becoming the first direct relative of a Spanish monarch to face a criminal trial. The image of a princess in the dock, accused of profiting from corruption while the country suffered through crippling austerity, was a devastating blow. It cemented a public perception that the royal family saw themselves as above the law. This was the crisis that put Felipe on the throne in 2014. His father's abdication wasn't a dignified retirement. It was a desperate move to save the institution. Felipe knew his reign would be defined by one thing above all else: cleaning house. And he started immediately. He declared a new era of a renewed monarchy for a new time, promising honesty and transparency. His first moves were swift. He put in place a strict code of conduct for all royal family members and banned them from accepting expensive gifts. He then took the unprecedented step of stripping his own sister, Cristina, of her title as Duchess of Palma. Though she was ultimately acquitted of the main criminal charges, she was still found civilly liable for benefiting from her husband's crimes. And Felipe's action sent a clear message. No one, not even his own sister, would be allowed to tarnish the crown. He effectively cut her and her family, who finalized their divorce in early 2024, off from all official royal life. His most dramatic move, however, was confronting his own father's legacy. In March 2020, as new details of Juan Carlos's alleged offshore accounts came out, Felipe took an extraordinary step. He publicly renounced any future personal inheritance he might receive from his father that was linked to questionable funds. At the same time, he stripped Juan Carlos of his annual state allowance. It was a public and humiliating rejection of his father's financial conduct. A few months later, Juan Carlos went into self-imposed exile in the United Arab Emirates, a disgraced king fleeing the country he once ruled. But Felipe's reforms went beyond punishing his relatives. He aimed to tear down the system that let the scandals happen in the first place. He ordered the palace accounts to be audited externally, with the results made public. And in a move to set a new standard of transparency, he voluntarily made his own personal wealth public for the first time in Spanish history, revealing assets of around 2.6 million euros and clarifying that this wealth came entirely from his official salary and that he held no assets abroad. Through these actions, Felipe has tried to lift the financial veil that has shrouded the monarchy for so long. He has traded the mystique of royal wealth for the credibility of public accountability. It has been a painful, methodical, and deeply personal process. He is a king haunted by the sins of his father in a relentless campaign to prove that his monarchy is different, that the crown can be clean. But in a country where a significant part of the population favors a republic, the question remains, is it enough? Just as King Felipe seemed to be steadying the royal ship, steering it clear of the financial wreckage left by his father, a new storm appeared. This time, the scandal wasn't about money, but something far more personal. It struck at the very heart of the new modern monarchy he had built, his marriage to Queen Letizia. The allegations came from a man named Jaime del Burgo, an entrepreneur who was not only a former friend of Letizia's, but also her former brother-in-law. In a series of explosive, since-deleted social media posts, Del Burgo made a shocking claim that he and Letizia had been romantically involved for years, not only before she met Felipe, but that their affair had been rekindled after. She was already married to the future king. The allegations, first detailed in a book by journalist Jaime Peñafiel, were sensational. Del Burgo claimed their relationship continued even while Letizia was a princess, and he backed his story by sharing a private selfie of a visibly pregnant Letizia wearing what he claimed was his pashmina. The photo came with a caption he attributed to her. "Love, I am wearing your pashmina. It is like feeling you by my side. It looks after me, protects me. I am counting the hours until we see each other again." The story grew more lurid with each new claim. Del Burgo alleged that he and Letizia had plans to flee Spain together and start a new life in the United States. He stated that he has more evidence, including photos, videos, text messages, locked away in a bank vault. To add a layer of political intrigue, he also claimed that Spain's Secret Service had put him under surveillance for years because of the affair. The reaction from the Zarzuela Palace was a deafening silence. The royal household has refused to comment on what it considers a private matter, a strategy that has done little to stop the media firestorm. Del Burgo, meanwhile, has doubled down on his claims, promising to release a documentary series about his version of the truth. For a nation where support for the monarchy is often fragile, the affair has provided fresh ammunition for Republicans. It places King Felipe in an almost impossible position. To respond would be to dignify the claims with a royal answer. To stay silent lets the narrative be controlled by his wife's accuser. The scandal forces the public to look at their king and wonder, is he a victim, a man betrayed by the woman at his side? Or is he complicit, a monarch aware of the deception and hiding it to protect the crown? This crisis is perhaps the greatest test of Felipe's reign. The financial scandals of his father were about greed, but this is about trust, loyalty, and the very foundation of his family. As he stands at the center of this intensely personal storm, the perfect image of the modern monarch has been fractured, revealing a far more complex and vulnerable man, a king whose private world has just become shockingly and perhaps ruinously public. If you want to uncover more secrets of the world's royal families, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. And for another deep dive into royal drama, check out our playlist on the scandals that shook the House of Windsor. We'll see you in the next video.